we always afraid of germs and diseases and probably our hygiene in society. What do you think about that? And I believe that's related to your books too.
Well, I think what we have developed a little bit, and understandably so, is what I call fear hygiene. So we are afraid that we get bad germs that make us sick, right? And that is very understandable because there are bad germs that make us sick. But what we have kind of like forgotten or ignored a little bit, and science also has forgotten and ignored for a while, but they are now rediscovering it, is that hygiene, really being clean in that way, is not about not having germs, because that's not possible. It's about having a good balance, like enough good ones that protect you from disease, even make your body healthy, so it's resilient. And then you can even have some bad ones. If they're not too much, then you won't get sick in many cases. So that is something that microbiology has been quite clear about. And through diseases like tuberculosis or big outbreaks of pandemics, COVID, we tend to focus on the bad, which is important, but we tend to forget the good ones. And we see in studies now very clear that when you foster and feed the good bacteria and have healthy bacteria in your environment, then this keeps you very healthy and is a very important factor of being protected from bad things. So I think very differently when I think about hygiene today. And I always make it a priority to feed the good bacteria, and then second place, I try to stay away from the bad, because this is actually how it makes more sense for the body. Otherwise, it's alone, it doesn't have good friends to help, and then the bad comes. That's the worst, kind of, And you can do this by different things. It's how you treat your living space. It's how you have your food. It's how you prepare your food and how you eat it. And even things like stress are a matter of hygiene. Because when we're really stressed, we send certain stress hormones in the blood. And science has shown that there are bacteria that can feed off of those hormones better than others. So we really change the weather and the nutrition in our gut and our body when we are stressed over a long period of time. For a day or a few hours, no problem. But after a while, people will realize stress makes their digestion worse. This is one of the reasons, because of different bacteria, and then there are others, of course, too.
It may also a kind of a question from the public, especially for us, from youth generation. Is it possible to see the bacteria inside of our gut? Or what is your explanation about the bacteria itself?
Well, what we can do is we can swab them. We can get a swab, and then we can put it on a petri dish and then let it grow, and then we can look at it under the microscope, for example. Or we can do genetic tests and see what kind of genes these bacteria have. And the thing is, why that was so difficult for a long time is because they're so strictly, crazily used to just our gut. They can't handle oxygen, so if you take them out through the air, they will die immediately. So there's all these complications, and this is also why the microbiome has suddenly become so much bigger in science, because suddenly we have all these techniques that are more affordable and doable than in 10, 20 years ago. This all started. We didn't have the machinery, we didn't have the instruments. So now, especially with artificial intelligence, we can analyze, because it's billions and billions of bacteria. So far more than humans, far more than stars, it's really a number that is insanely big. So I think stars in the Milky Way, I would have to say. Otherwise it wouldn't be correct. But it's an insanely high number. And now we, for the first time, have techniques to really kind of start to make sense of it.
It's a good term for us to easily understand the Milky Way of the bacteria. Because can you mention the numbers? Probably what is the comparison between the bacteria, and also how could identify the bad bacteria and the good bacteria?
So we're talking 10 to the 12th up to 10 to the 14th. So in Germany, this would be Billionen, and I think in English it translates to trillions. Always the translation is a bit irritating for me. this is the number, and we have just if we have 1 gram of like colon or bacteria from the stool, those are extremely high numbers. So without computation, we would not be able to analyze it. And when you look at weight, it is about 200 grams. And that, together with other aspects, because it develops from birth, it's cells connected, it's communicating with the rest of the body. So some scientists will say our gut bacteria count as an organ on its own. So just like the heart or the liver is an organ, the microbiome is considered an organ as well by some scientists.
There's a kind of question about what is the function of appendix, because appendix has no room anymore. Just a little bit explanation about that, Doctor?
Yes,
please?
There was a really cool study in the year 2007 by, I think, 2 British researchers, and they put the new hypothesis, which is that the appendix is collecting good bacteria, because the immune cells there are extremely packed. They're dense, like all the way around. There's all these immune cells, way more than the rest after and before. So it selects nice bacteria. So then when we, for example, diarrhea or a flu, and we get rid of all the contents, like everything comes out, also the bacteria are like coming out. So then from the appendix, the good bacteria can come back and repopulate the gut from there. So this is one of the actual hypotheses that is in science at the moment, that this is the reason for the appendix.
Bacteria are also part of our body, whatever our argument is, and this is really work for our health too, right? By the way, is there a kind of curiousness from people in Indonesia, especially because on some culture the debate goes to, okay, the now we're talking about the poop. The pooping position. So what is your best suggestion about this? And some Asian, let's say in Indonesia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, even in Taiwan, people, the seniors are still practicing the squat position.
The squat.
Yes. While we are young generations practicing the sitting one. So what kind of explanation that you have about this? And how to end up this debate wisely? For sure.
So what you can say for sure is that, well, in all the ages before us, the people would use the squat position most of the time. So actually our whole anatomy is also directed towards that, because when you look at the very end of the gut, like where it all comes out, basically, there's a muscle that goes around it, and it pulls a little bit so that when you stand or when you sit in a normal chair position, then it will help you hold everything in. So you don't have to like be like this the whole time. The muscle is just there. He's like, your body is like, I got this. And when we go in the squat position and we lift the legs a little bit, then this muscle like loses its, like, it doesn't pull so much. It goes like this. So it's let's go a little bit. And this is why it's actually anatomically speaking, like medically speaking, it's just easier for the gut to let go when you're in the squat position. And there were even some studies done on this, some even having people in an X-ray while they were going to the toilet. So quite adventurous study. And they all showed that it's a bit faster and that people can let go of more when they sit in the squat position. So medically, it would be recommended. But now, okay, I am also a person who enjoys just comfortably sitting. Squatting can be a bit like, I think, like going on a ski mountain, like, you know. So what can we do? And one scientist even looked at this topic, and he just put a little stool in front of his seating toilet. And he made experiments with that, showing that it worked really nicely. When you put your feet on a little pedestal or like little elevated thing in front of the toilet, then your legs are almost like they are when you would be squatting. And this can then be also a very good solution, and probably the most comfortable one, I would think. Yeah.